Hi, I'm Nikita,
And I'm Moses.
and you're watching My Prerogative podcast. And today we will be talking about self changes in relationships.
And today I'm wearing a shirt.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
you're welcome. You're welcome. I know it was for you. For you. I'm
Um,
not here. I don't want to distract you.
so, what's up? What's new
Uh,
with you?
that was a smooth transition. Yeah, so what's up? It sounded like that's what it sounded like. So, Moses, what's up? How you doing? Pretty good. I just got back from teaching some lessons, dancing my butt off.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I gotta get back
Nice.
for Nikita. For what's important. Uh-oh.
Do you have any experience with this topic?
Uh, Changes in relationships? I guess so.
Yeah,
I think
how you change in relationships. Yeah.
yeah, I think everybody does. I think everybody changes in relationships. I think everybody grows into a different person, becomes someone new.
How do you view it?
I mean, depending on the relationship, it can be good, it can be bad. I think change is never inherently a bad thing. So, it really depends.
What's the difference between self changes, like that growth component you were just talking about, and compromising who you are in relationships?
Um, I think well, I guess when you say it like that, like compromising who you are, it has a very negative connotation to it, I suppose.
I
Like if
think that's what a lot
someone,
of people do, though.
I don't know, I don't think,
Well, I have. I'm not going to speak for everybody. I have. I do a lot of self compromise. Well, I did a lot of self compromising in like past relationships, and it has always left me even more broken and even more pieces to put back together once the relationship was over.
mm,
So, although I used it for my betterment, because like after it was all said and done, it was like, okay, you know, now I want to be better than
mhm.
how this person viewed me. And so it pushed me harder to like, improve my life and who I am as a person. But I think I've definitely done a lot of self compromising where I would try to cater to what the other person was wanting and needing and their desires, and completely, leaving myself out of the equation.
Well, obviously, like in that context, like, though that's the thing with change. Like I said, change isn't in a person changing in a relationship. Maybe not. Maybe you want to make a distinction of in a relationship versus like changing for a relationship. It could be like seen as bad, but change itself is not inherently bad. But like the context can skew it one way or the other. In that context, that's bad. That's bad change.
I agree.
Whereas like
I think it's bad change in the relationship, but it made me a better person outside of the relationship.
see,
So you can always flip it and make it a positive, right?
change always usually leads to some kind of growth, right? Or it's like, hey, like I went through some shit, changed me, but I can like still grow as a person because of it. Like I've
Yeah.
experienced, I guess, both sides of it, where it's like some relationships have changed me for the better, and some have like I've changed, I've compromised. Maybe I guess we could use that as like a distinction. I've compromised, and I guess maybe didn't became a different version of myself I didn't like.
hmm Do you
So
think that?
oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say, do you think this whole self compromising in relationships is more geared towards like the younger demographic who's just starting out in life and don't really know really who they are? And so those relationships have to exist and occur in order for people to be like, okay, this is what I'm willing to put up with. This is what I'm willing, this is what I'm not going to put up with. These, this is who I am. This, it more solidifies like their identity.
So, like, do people compromise more when they're younger?
Yeah. Like when they're just
Yeah,
starting out. Yeah.
probably. I mean, because that's just wisdom, right? Can't get
hmm
wisdom with that experience. So, Like, I think,
I wish that weren't true.
yeah, can't have wisdom unless you go through some shit. So, that's why.
Let me
when
see
we're
that
kids,
scar that you just.
exactly. That's wisdom. It's wisdom. But the Band-Aid on the thumb is, I'm going to be extra careful running on that trail because, like, hey. But we don't understand it as kids because, like, our parents are like, hey, Mo, you might be smart. Maybe you're smarter than me, but I got more wisdom. And I was like, what's that even mean? But now that I'm older, it's like, okay, as smart as I thought I was, there's some shit you just can't understand or predict until you live through it. You go through the bad, and it's like, okay, I get it now.
Agreed.
So the bad stuff can still change you for the better. You gotta at least live through it. Unfortunately,
Fortunately.
I guess it's both. I wish I didn't have to do it. Sometimes I wish I could live life as a naive fairy tale and things just worked out perfectly.
Do you think you have that viewpoint because you weren't taught how to process grief and sadness as a child? Because you know how like parents try to protect their little ones from feeling hurt and feeling sad. So it's like, if there's a problem that comes up, like your parent is going to fix it for you as opposed to like letting you feel your feelings and let you sit in it and encourage you to actually feel and sit in how you feel about it and that sadness and in that pain.
I guess for me specifically, probably not. No, because I guess that was never an issue I had with, like, usually processing like my negative or sad feelings was never too hard for me. Like being sad was never like much of a burden on me.
Okay.
So it's like, I guess for that specifically, probably not. I think the way I was raised is maybe just expressing my emotions was like definitely a challenge I had to learn over time. So when you're in a relationship, that's obviously like that's gonna make things tough. It's like, oh, Moses, do you know how to express your emotions? Like, you know what? Not really. Mm-hmm. I had to learn that to become the version of myself that exists now. Like there was a lot of trial and error along the way.
Oh, for sure.
So
for sure,
different trials for me, I suppose.
Okay.
Like, I'm very good at being sad, if that makes sense. Which is very sad to. It sounds very sad to say.
It's a little morbid, but I think I am too. Like because I know that on the other side of that sadness and that grief that we feel is so much like beauty and joy and like, a new version, a better version of, myself or who I was. And so I look forward to that, but you still have to go through the motions of feeling all of your feelings in the process. And so, I guess I just hold on to like, this too shall pass. And I won't always feel like this. I'm feeling like this right now, but I'll get, through it. I'll get over it.
We all learn that singular lesson at some point. Cause like, I definitely learned the same thing with like, when you're sad, it's only momentary. Like I try to just focus on the bigger perspective. Like, listen, I've been sad before. I've been in this same spot before. And it's like, I thought these same thoughts. And guess what? There was always a period where I'm fine after. So like, why am I getting hung up on this?
I fucking hate people who says that shit when I'm going through some shit. Like, fuck you and your past experience. Can we trade places then?
I mean, it definitely sucks being in it, but it's like we've all had. It's a terrible feeling, right?
Yeah.
We're just in it, and it's like, oh my god, it's never gonna be great again.
Yeah.
But then you're like, it will eventually, but not right now, or not.
God,
probably
take
not
this
tomorrow.
pain away from me.
Yeah. Like, you sound melodramatic and stuff, but like it's true. Like when you're in it, it's like, this feels awful. Will I ever be happy again? And in the back of my mind, I know, I will. I don't know when. I probably won't even notice when the switch happens, but
right, yeah.
At least for today and probably tomorrow, I'm probably definitely gonna be sad.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, it's hard.
All right, so I Googled the definition of compromise, and Google's definition is, I'm not sure if this is Merriam-Webster, that's why I didn't shout them out, but compromise is the settlement of differences by mutual concession. Compromise doesn't mean you completely agree with your partner or vice versa. It's healthy to maintain your personal values, beliefs, opinions, and preferences while still meeting halfway. I don't think I view compromise like that.
I mean, that's what a compromise is, though.
That's what a compromise is, but in my mind, compromise means somebody gets their way and somebody doesn't. Very rarely, do people, well, I guess people can meet 50-50.
That's like the idea of like a compromise. Like, okay, we all sacrifice something to like meet in the middle.
I guess my experience, it was always like, all right, you go ahead, or...
That's another definition of it, right? Because, like, for what you're talking about, I feel like I also understood it as the way you said it.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Because I understood the way you accept. Yeah, here's the verb. Accept standards that are lower than desirable.
There you go.
So yeah, there's another, because I was like, I understood the word. You have the right
that
word.
that may be what its intended purpose, but I don't think that that's how people use it in today's society. But like, I could be wrong. Maybe it was just my experiences.
Because synonyms like to give away, give in, yield, acquiesce,
exactly,
adapt, retract. So yeah, that's the right word. We understood. We had to dig a little deeper.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so like you compromise like yourself for someone else. Like you accepted a lower standard than desirable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, everyone's done that before. I feel like everyone's done that. At least on some level. Maybe not like, it's not always extreme, but like, depending on who you're dating, sometimes you do compromise some shit. And it's like, eh.
Now, when you say that, do you mean like, I don't know, pizza versus hot wings, or, right? Or like, Vietnamese versus fucking McDonald's, like.
So I have like a casual, like a small experience with it where it's like, at least like one of the smaller examples where it's like, it's not game breaking, but it is a compromise that I've made a lot of times. I've never. Oh no! Please.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like, for example, like it can be something that might seem minuscule for you, but might mean something a lot to the other person. So, like, for example, like I've never dated someone who likes Star Wars as much as I do.
I was thinking that. I was going to say like Star Wars versus like Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, so it's like. And like it might seem like, well, that's not a big deal. Like it's really not in the grand scheme of things.
But it is a big deal, though.
But like it's kind of like, that's like, to me, Star Wars is like my favorite thing in the entire world. Like it means the most to me. I've never been in a relationship, at least where I naturally, like, someone comes in with like the same level of like interest as me. I've never had that. Usually, like, someone will compromise and like watch it and like at least watch it with me and be like, okay, Moses likes this. I like Moses. Like, I'll at least try to like it.
Mm-hmm.
But like it'll always be like that little disconnect. Like, okay, they're doing it for me, and maybe they even like it because of me, and like maybe over time, maybe it'll like match up. But like I've never gone into a relationship with someone liking my favorite thing as much as me. So that's like a compromise. I said, maybe I don't need that. Maybe it could just be my thing. Like maybe I don't need her to like it as much as me. So that's like a small compromise. That's like, oh, maybe it's not that big, but like Moses loves it, and like he'd love to maybe find someone or be with someone like who likes it too.
I mean, but what if TV was like your most favorite thing to do, and it was their most favorite thing to do?
Then that would make it hard.
And y'all are like on different ends of the spectrum when it comes to like TV genre. Like I feel like that would be hard, because it's like, I don't even want to watch TV with you, and like this is how I like to spend my time. Those intimate moments. But is that compromising who you are though? Like, or is that just a standard version of compromise?
So like I was about to say with what you described, like let's take the two scenarios. If we both watch TV and we have vastly different interests, like you're on one extreme, I'm on the other. Compromise would be like we exchange and meet in the middle. So, for example, I dated someone. They loved Grey's Anatomy. I was probably not that into it. I watched like 8 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, even though like I wasn't like super into it. I knew they liked it, so I made the compromise. Like I'll watch this, and like they were like, "Hey, I'll watch Star Wars with you. Like we'll cross the boundaries. We compromise." Okay. So that's like the positive way. Like we both met in the middle and said, "I'll do this for you because I know you'll do this for me."
Okay.
Whereas like maybe the more negative version would be like if I compromised in the way where like I just didn't, if they wanted me to watch Grey's Anatomy or like they wanted us, we watched TV together but we never watched like the thing I love the most. Like if I just had to like like they're like I don't like
get in where you fit in. Yeah.
So it's like oh I guess this person just doesn't want to.
What about the first scenario? And you watched Grey's Anatomy with them, but when it was time to watch Star Wars, like they always fell asleep. Like, would you feel some type of?
I mean, I think you would. Because I think you would feel some. I think it's within reason to feel some type of way about. Because, like if I was awake and engaged during that, I wouldn't be like super mad about it or anything. But like I'd feel some kind of way. Like, oh man, like I wouldn't be mad. I'd be just kind of like sad or disappointed. Like, oh. I really wanted to share this with you.
Right.
So I guess it's like, I'll just keep it to myself. I'll save it for the kids. We'll leave you out of it. Like,
all right. So the first question is, sorry, were you still talking?
No, I was just saying something stupid.
Okay. So how does the self change in intimate relationships?
Wow. How philosophical.
I think it's kind of like what we were talking about actually on a trail when it's like we are all evolving. And so when we get into relationships, it's typically one, pulling you out of your comfort zone because you may be used to doing things a certain type of way. And then two, it's like an avenue to deal with past traumas or things that you subconsciously aren't aware of, like, negative traits or, just changes that you may need to get away from that you're not even aware of or that you may not even know that you're doing. But now that you're dealing with someone on a more intimate level and you do care what this person thinks and you do want to be the best version of yourself for this person, like how does the self change in those types of scenarios?
I think when you're in a relationship, definitely the idea of self, I think it does get sacrificed to the idea of collective, right? Where it's like now we're like, instead of just a singular, I guess I don't want to say existence. That sounds way too.
No, let's go with it. Let's go with it.
You're like a collective existence now. So it's like the idea of like self, I think, slowly does get eroded for the collective. Not that that's a bad thing or anything, because that's like what a relationship is. Like we're combining two lives theoretically into one. So,
I mean, but I do feel like that there has to be boundaries. So I think the I or the self shouldn't completely evaporate for the sake of, coexistence with someone else.
But that's the thing, like, the idea of coexistence, it can still include like individual self. It can still include individual time and things like that. I think it depends on the nature of the collective experience you're cultivating, I suppose.
Okay, so let's go back to the question. How does self change in intimate relationships? Is it the challenges that the partners experience together and allows them both to grow and evolve and be better after certain traumas that they may experience together? Or do you think it's just like, this is like a really, really petty example, but like you always leaving the toilet seat up and now you're living with somebody else. So now you have to be more mindful, right, about like what it is that you're doing.
That almost sounded like a call out. Like, I'd never been to her house. Like, what? I didn't do that. It sounded like you called me out specifically. Like, I'd never been to her house. Like, wait, I didn't do that. Right. Like, yeah, Moses.
Or just like other, like, you know, little, you know, tedious traits. Like maybe, you know, I don't call people back, right? So it's just not my thing. Like, you know, I call people on my time when I feel like it. But now that I'm in a relationship, like, you know, you have to do better.
Yeah. I guess like I guess like just like the idea of self, like it forces you to grow and adapt for this new like relationship and like environment or experience, right? Like, yeah,
I'll interact.
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little bit on the spiritual end, but I'm also going to say that too, like we pre-send those experiences in those moments subconsciously. So spiritually, we pre-send ourselves, our souls, right? Our spirit body pre-sends us experiences in order to shift how we were existing before to like grow more into like, you know, your purpose or, you know, your drive or your goals or whatever it is that you're supposed to be here for. Right. So I think like a lot of times, we're not aware of it, but like we send people, or we manifest people into our universe in order to change the self, to be, you know, a more better you and to kind of shift you into like where you're supposed to be headed.
I mean, right? Yeah, in a sense, like, you know, like it's always an opportunity to learn and grow. I said, what did I say? Love and grow? Learn and grow. Like, in a weird way, like I wouldn't wish that I didn't have my terrible relationship experiences of like the past, because, you know, it helped me get to the place I am now. And I like the me of today, and the me of today wouldn't exist without them. As
exactly.
shitty as that sounds.
All right,
as
so
shitty as that is.
That doesn't sound shitty yet. It actually sounds, I mean, whatever the opposite of shitty is, that's what it sounds like.
That was good. It's really thinking like, what is the opposite of shitty?
Okay.
Burpee?
How do you rectify the need for self-improvement and change in relationship with the need to be accepted as you are?
It's like, how do you balance the two?
Right.
Wanting to be accepted as who you are versus changing.
How do you know the difference, I guess?
I mean, if you know yourself really well, then you know, like,
okay,
maybe,
who knows themselves really well, though?
Well, you know, well enough.
Okay.
Someone who has spent some time being introspective about who they are after bad things happen to them. You know, someone who's like, okay, what's the good and the bad shit about me? Like, in my mind, it's always going to be subjective. You might be wrong, but you have to at least think, I guess, like, what about you might be negative? How are the things you're doing maybe making the other person feel? And then, like, is it something you're willing, I guess, to use your word, I guess, compromise on?
Yeah.
And like balancing all of that, you can like understand, like, what am I willing to change? How do I want to change it? How much do I want to change it? You know what I mean? Because there is like a idea of like, you want to preserve your own individual self / peace and happiness. Like, if you like being you, and you don't want to change who you are that much or something, like drastically change, like, I don't want to be like if you don't want to be like a whole different person, like, let's say, like, I don't know, have you seen the movie Wedding Crashers?
Yeah.
You know, like the family, they live out in the Hamptons or whatever, and they're like, Moses, we need you to change and wear, you know, come on the yacht with us and act a certain way and act like you belong here. And that feels weird. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? Like if it's like an extreme shift, that's where you'd be like, okay, wait, that's too far.
Okay, but the
Don't you like me for
self-improvement,
me?
the self-improvement aspect would be, hey, I'm on a yacht this week and I was and now I have access to this yacht, whereas before I did.
Like I said, like, and that's like that's the
So
thing you have
that's
to make.
the
Like,
self-improvement. Okay, but the change is like, no, you got to dress this way. You got to look this way in order to be on the yacht. That's like
you gotta-
compromising. Yeah, okay.
That's
That makes
too much.
sense. That was a really good analogy on the fly. You're getting good with this.
I had to think. I was like, okay. So it's like, preserve yourself as much as you feel comfortable to a certain degree, but also be willing to maybe compromise a few things. And like, depending on how far you want to go, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I can't give like a hard number rule hypothetically, but like, in the moment, you can figure it out if you think about it. if you think about yourself, you can figure it out. We've all been there, right?
Yeah. All right. So this next question is interesting. Okay, and then you have to rate one is greater than the other, okay? Because they're both really good examples. But which is truest intimacy in relationship? Is it 1, sharing all stages, grown, learned, changed together? Wait, hold up. Is it sharing all stages of growth? I'm going to just rephrase this. Is it sharing all stages of growth or...
okay.
Right.
Oh,
sharing all stages of growth, change, whatever you learn, that togetherness, like we're going through it together. Or is it 2, having faced solitude individually to get to know oneself patiently while meeting different people who matches each true self at each different stage? Which is the truest intimacy in relationship? I'll answer first. So I'm going to say the second one, only because I think the most important relationship, and people don't really give it enough credit, is a relationship you have with yourself. Right. And so you can't really evolve and grow, if you're freaking siloed and you're not around, society, and you like kind of live in your own bubble. So, in order to grow and kind of test what it is that you feel like resonates with you, you have to do that in relationship. So, at this stage of growth, maybe right now I'm learning patience, or I feel like I'm learning patience because, now I'm not like, taking my food out of the microwave before that ding, before the full 30 seconds of it preheating. I'm waiting until it heats all the way up, versus like if somebody come and they're like, hey, I'm running late. And you're like, how do you call it? A person that's always on time? Punctual person.
Punctual.
Yeah. And it's like, shit, like I'm still getting irritated because this person is late. Like, am I really patient? Or, so, and then once you learn that, and once you really get a grip on like, okay, what does patience look like to me? What am I willing to accept and not accept? And then you kind of like marinate, in that little lesson, and then you go to the next one and you may meet somebody else. But so I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
So the first one was you grow.
Sharing all stages of your growth, with a partner, or facing solitude, getting to know yourself, and meeting different people at these different stages of your growth to kind of like test the waters. Like, which one is more, I guess, not valuable, but which one makes more sense? Or which one yields the best results?
Okay, I think they're such drastically different, like relationships. So it's like, okay, which one's better? I mean,
my only thing about the first one. Go ahead. You can go.
No. I want to hear. I want to formulate my answer. Let me hear you first.
My only thing about the first one is when you're in a relationship, like if you and I were in a relationship, I'm one entity, you're one entity, and then the relationship is its own entity, right? So that's the whole little dilemma with with an argument with like, we meet each other halfway or 50-50. Like you bring 100% of yourself to the relationship, and then the relationship itself is its own entity. So I can't really, like when I'm in relationship, 9 times out of 10, unless you have a really firm grip on like the importance of individuality while you're in relationships, like you're really will probably identify most with wherever the relationship goes, as opposed to like what I really want and what I really need. If that makes sense.
So for the second one seems like if you say you handle solitude and like you just kind of like build it from like relationship to relationship, right? And like you eventually get to
a whole person
you're in now.
Right.
Because it just like when I think of these two, they seem like okay, these are two different journeys, right?
Right.
To me, they also don't seem like mutually exclusive, I suppose. But in terms of which one's better, I think the weird thing that I think about is like in my mind, as I went from relationship to relationship, in the moment, I kind of wanted the first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the very, because like the first one, at least to me, like symbolizes like okay, like you guys are like taking this journey like together. And it's like I feel like everyone wants to at some point get part of the first one. In the sense of like I didn't choose to bounce from relationship to relationship.
Like can you really grow? Like if you were married to somebody for like 50 years, like do you think that would kind of, I guess, make you the best version of yourself, as opposed to like, going from relationship to relationship because shit didn't work out, and you kind of take that middle ground to recoup, rebalance, learn from the last relationship before you head into a new one. And, and that just continues to happen until you're like a whole actualized person.
It could. Because, like, there's no reason, like,
but which one is better, in your opinion? I said you have to choose one. They're both.
I know.
It's like two sides of the same coin, but.
Because it's so hard to pick, because, like, on one hand, like, I'm doing the second one. So
right,
like,
I know. That's probably why I like the second one, because that's my life.
Because that's my life. Like, that's what I'm doing. So it's like, I have to think, like, if I was the other one, like, I'd probably say that one. So it's like, which one's better?
But it's like, if you were the other one, like, obviously you wouldn't be this version of Moses. You'd probably be...
Probably different.
So...
Yeah. But different isn't necessarily worse. It could be better.
It could be better. Yeah. You could be in the Hamptons right now, right? Instead of like talking about it.
Could be on the yacht by now. With some heiress. I went to SMU, goddammit.
That's a really good you call it.
So yeah, which one's better? Man, I guess I'll pick the second one. But it's such a biased answer because that's just the one I'm living. It's the one we know. That's the one we're living. I know people who would probably pick the first one, and it's like, you know what? They seem happy, so it's like it's hard to say. It's like, I can't see this as bad.
If you could go back and change it, would you pick pick the other road?
We encountered a video recording error. I think. Are you still live?
I think so. Just keep going. You're good. You're there.
Okay. I was waiting for the countdown to stop.
But if you could change it and you could do it over, like, would you?
Question.
Would you change it?
That's like asking if I get back together with one of my exes. If I go back in time, would I make it work? That's a weird question too. It's like, maybe? Because that was the idea at the time. You know what I mean? If I could go back in time. if I go back in time, the knowledge I had now, like if 30-year-old Moses went back into 21-year-old Moses' body and said, okay, let's make the decision. Like, I have the knowledge to make this. Like, wait, that's not a good example because I'm still second scenario Moses. I'd have to actually just be like, okay, just fresh start. I don't know, maybe. Hey, that's a weird question. It's hard to choose, you know?
It's hard. It is. Okay, how about this one? Is it okay to change yourself for a relationship? Now, somebody responded, and I captured that.
Oh.
Okay, hold up. So, sometimes changing yourself is good for a relationship. In fact, often it's absolutely necessary. Relationships are based on compromise because despite rom-com fantasies, there is no such thing as a perfect fit between people.
I agree with that. Especially the last sentence. If I could just agree with one thing more than others, the last sentence I agree with 200%.
Really?
I mean, because like I think we talked about it on a stream before. The rom-com Disney movies have definitely changed our perception of like what a relationship is actually like.
Yeah, but okay. So what would be the what would be the percentage though? What would be the percentage? No, not of compromise, but the perfect relationship. Like if you were 93% compatible, or do you have to be 100% compatible for it to be quote unquote perfect?
I mean, technically, I guess, if I'm being technical, perfect would be 100%. But for being technical, I don't know if I can say 93 is perfect. My brain is too scientific. For being saying perfect.
Okay, well, yeah. Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense.
So like even like let's say like there's Moses and there's like I don't know, or let's not use myself. Let's say there's two people. They're almost the same in like everywhere. They love the same stuff. They met doing something they both love. You know, like rom-com scenario. But the nitty-gritty, there's still like some slight differences like between them. There always will be. And like to combine two, it's science, but they get super scientific. When you're mixing two things together scientifically, there's got to be some. There's going to be some overlap. There's going to be some. It's not easy to blend two compounds together. There's got to be some compromise to let you guys gel into whatever new element you're about to create. Like most people, like 100% would be like you guys aren't like two liquids combining. You're like puzzle pieces. Like it's just like damn, look at that. Just fits. That one's, who knows if that exists somewhere. Maybe it does. I'm sure someone in human history has had that, and I'm jealous of them.
I think the imperfect aspect is like that, you know, just as well. I mean, it plays just as high importance to like that perfect fit, that puzzle piece, you know, when you fit perfectly in it, then, you know what I mean, like, quote unquote 100% perfect. So that's why I say like 93 when we're talking about like a relationship.
Like 93 is like
perfect.
The puzzle pieces fit, but they're like from different brands of puzzles. The pieces fit, but they're not the same brand. Like it fits in, it works just fine.
So one is Cheeto, one is Great Value.
Exactly.
Oh, that's messed up. One got to be like store brand, and one is like.
They're both perfectly. They're both great pieces.
Let's
they
say
fit great.
One
they're
is
just different brands.
Cheeto, one is Lay's.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's like I think every relationship requires at least like at some point a little bit of compromise, like at least a little bit. There's perfect. I imagine would mean there's no need for compromise on anyone's part whatsoever. You guys are just in sync. You guys are basically just souls linked up. That's true soulmate shit right there. That's
right.
A true soulmate stuff. Or it's like, what do you want to eat? Saying I already know. It's like, damn. can you read my mind or something? Like, maybe she can.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I see. I understand this question now because when you were saying that, what came into my mind was like when you're in the grocery store and you both reach for that apple. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
like you kind of touch hands ever so slightly, and it's like
yeah.
this.
Like
shit don't happen.
100% is like you're actually living in like a romance movie, not even a rom-com. Rom-coms have compromise. Romantic
True.
comedies, that's all compromise. You're in like a true romance movie. Like our eyes met, the lights were perfect. That's some true soulmate shit.
Yeah.
That's Moses riding shirtless on a white stallion shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I just saw him and that was it. Like, oh.
Oh, and then like he falls off the stallion and the girl is like, you know, tending to the fields and she sees him and she nurses him back
Yeah.
to health.
Like, just like, that's like a perfect fantasy scenario. It's like, I saw Nikita from across the room. Our eyes met, and the rest was history.
The rest is history. There you go.
We finished each other's sentences the first time we met. Like, whoa. You guys were meant to be.
All right, here's the next question. What is a healthy level of prioritizing yourself while in a relationship? Self-care is still so important when you're in a relationship.
Yes. Because, like, I guess you
So
never
we
been
were
to
like
like a
both rubbing our eyes at the same time. Does that mean that there's a connection there?
yeah.
We're on
already
the
know there's
same page.
we already know there's a connection between us, Nikita. This is the viewers know this too. They've seen enough streams to know, like, yeah, there's something going on here. There's something going on between these two.
Oh my gosh.
So like you haven't been in like a super duper like long term like constant relationship, right?
No. Mm-mm.
I definitely feel like when you're in like a relationship for like longer than like a year, especially if you live with that person, this becomes way more important. I feel.
How so?
Like I feel like this is like the key to maybe like making like a relationship last like decades plus or something. Is like you gotta like.
But give examples though.
I was talking. I was getting there. You gotta like manage your own time, your me time, because there's the honeymoon phase of relationships where you guys want to do everything together. Like that'll always be there, and it'll be like when you're in it, it seems like this is gonna be this way forever. Like we're gonna do everything together. It's gonna be great. Oh my god, I love being around her. I love being around him. We're both so fun. We will love just go everywhere together. But like as time goes on, the honeymoon phase is documented. It doesn't last forever. At some point, it's like okay, it's like I want to go hang out with my friends, or I want to go do this, and like maybe you don't want to go do that. Maybe we figured out that like she doesn't like this, Moses isn't like that. Like, can we do it on our own? Like, do I have to stop doing that thing altogether because like we don't want to do it together, or can we do these things we both love separately? And I think that's when it's like okay, let's start figuring out like what's a Moses activity, what's a Moses ex-girlfriend activity. And I think
Why do you have to use the past?
what?
Why are you using the past? Like ex-girlfriend?
Oh no, not I didn't mean Moses ex-girlfriend. I meant like Moses I meant like an equation.
Oh, Moses ex.
Like,
okay.
Yeah, Moses ex-girlfriend. I was just using
Okay.
I was thinking of it as an equation in my head.
Okay.
So no,
okay.
it wasn't a past thing. I didn't even realize it sounded. So yeah, not like that. So it's like, you know, you gotta start figuring out like, okay, what do I want to stop doing Moses solo activities? Or can I still do those, or is our relationship good enough that I can still do those on my own and like we can still have things that we do together? And I think that becomes weirdly important the longer it goes on, because it's like that's when you can feel like you're compromising parts of yourself for the relationship. That's like, hey, I used to love doing like those marriage movies where it's like, whoa, I used to love doing that. why'd I ever stop? It's like, like, why'd I ever stop doing that? Like,
I think they just came out with one with Kevin Hart on Netflix, but go ahead. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I think that's how you get in that scenario where it's like, oh, well, my girlfriend, my wife doesn't like doing it, so I stopped doing it. It's like, oh, but I love doing it. It wasn't bad or anything. Oh, why'd I stop?
Yeah.
Let me get back into it like 20 years later or something. In fact, I know why this seems so in my head. As a dance teacher, I see this scenario all the time. 60%, maybe 70% of students I have, this is the exact story.
So they love dancing. Yeah.
But my husband doesn't like dancing. So either we divorced or we like talked about it and like, I'm going to do it without him. Like literally that's like the business of teaching people dance is like, I love dancing. I never got to do it. My husband doesn't do it. I want to start. Like, cool. It's like it happens.
Yeah.
It definitely happens.
That's
Don't
even
give up the things
insane
you
that there has to be a debate or a struggle to do something without your partner. Like, I've never understood that. Because if I want to do some shit and you be like, no, I don't want to do it, I'm like, all right, well, I'll be back at, around next time. So,
I mean, relationships are different.
but I do know people who, like, they do everything with their partner. And I think, if that works for you, fine. Like, more power to you. I've just never understood it.
It's like those people are like living the dynamic of like your partner's like also your best friend. You know what I mean? Those people who like do everything with their partners, like they're truly unironically living their partner is their best friend, like life. Where it's like, yeah, I do everything with her. Like she's like not just my girlfriend, like my wife. Like she's actually like my best
why
friend.
though? But why? Like, just because I don't do everything with my best friend. Like, some things we don't do together. I'll tell them about it, and I'll run it past them before I make a determination on if I really want to do it or not, or just kind of like talk through it with them. But that doesn't mean that we have to do it together.
I mean, it's a different, like I said, just like we talked about earlier. Maybe it's a different path.
Yeah.
We're on path 2. That's the path 1 people. They like have access to that ability. It's like a video game. They have access to a different set of abilities.
I think that answers this next question because it says, why do I feel like I lose myself in a relationship? So I think we just answered that.
Yeah.
Because you don't prioritize yourself.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I can get the idea of like, I feel like you do want, if your partner is like actually like unironically like truly your best friend, like truly like Nikita's my best friend and we're dating, like, but like I could understand people who are like, yeah, I just love doing things with her, because like I feel like saying she's my best friend, if that's like 100% legitimate, we usually like want to do those things together. We're not forcing it or anything. It's like, hey, do you want to do this? Absolutely. It sounds sick. Let's go. Like, whoa, yeah. You know what I mean? Like I could do that if I had that, if that makes sense. Like if that was true and I had that, then I would be like, I understand it. Like this person,
I'm down.
Like,
I'm down
yeah.
Anytime because I would have done it anyway. Type of
it's like, oh, like that sounds sick. Let's go. Or like, oh, awesome. Like, do you want to go? Do you want to go with me? Like, oh, sure. Like, you're fun as shit. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, I get that.
Okay.
Maybe
like
we just never had that.
Maybe
that's why. Maybe we're from the outside looking in. Like, I don't get it.
I feel like we're always on the same page when it comes to like our Sunday hikes. Like, we going tomorrow? Yeah, I'll be there. You gonna be there? But it's like.
Nikita, the viewers already know. The ship is already sailing. They're like, these two. They sit here and talk about relationships every weekend.
All right. So the next question is, women especially tend to lose themselves in a relationship due to cultural conditioning. In fact, even in good relationships, we may do this out of love, not fear. We compromise ourselves slowly, often in imperceptible ways, unaware that losing ourselves risks our greatest despair. I guess that's just somebody's opinion. I honestly don't even know why I pulled that question because it's not really a question.
Yeah, it's just someone stating.
Okay, right. All right. So,
Pretty true.
what?
I think it's true. I think it's kind of true. I can see it.
Mm,
Maybe
I
like
mean,
a
it's
larger.
true. What she's saying is true. I don't know. I don't know if. Yeah. Do you think still like today women are more susceptible to losing themselves in a relationship than men?
Maybe like a little less, like a little, like probably way more back in the day.
Hmm.
I could see it being way more back in the day. Maybe
Yeah,
like
I can see
nowadays,
that.
it's probably going down nowadays. It's probably maybe closer to evenish, but I think it maybe skews still a little bit more maybe towards guys. I don't know how I can't give a number on how much, but I can see it being closer to even, but maybe like
Mhm.
guys are like a little bit ahead.
Gotcha.
So I can see it. I can see the
I agree.
idea. The
I
idea
agree.
makes sense to me. So I think it still at least persists a little bit today.
Mm, yeah,
But yeah,
I
sure.
agree.
See it.
That was a really good point. Um, what should you do when your partner wants you to change, i.e., stop drinking, going out, etc.?
Mm. Well, depending on how bad it is, if it's like, if we're talking like an intervention, but you definitely got to talk
He
to them
said
about it
an
and set some
intervention.
because like we need you to stop drinking. Like, wait, is this just like, is this an intervention or is this like, could you just drink like a little less? How severe is it? I could give like an example because like.
But what about
of
the going out though?
Going out? What are you going out and doing? You going out with your friends? You going out to the strip club? What's going on?
Okay, let me hear your example. Go ahead.
So I was dating a girl years ago, and she was a vegan, and like I am not vegan. So like the compromise was like if we like officially dated, like
Ooh.
would you be okay switching to vegan? And I was like, I don't know. Like, would you be okay if I didn't? Would you be fine if I didn't do that? Let me turn my light on real quick. It's very dark.
Okay.
Basically disappearing. Slowly becoming a shadow. I was like, oh, hold on, let me plug this in. So, like that's like one experience I had where like someone was like, hey, can you compromise? Like, would you like change your whole eating habits if we dated? I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I would do that.
I think that would be hard too. Just like which restaurants are we going to go eat at, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a hard one.
Vegan food, pretty good. I don't know if I want to eat it all the time. I don't dislike vegan food. It's very good. But
Yeah,
it's one of those things.
that's a commitment.
It's one of those things because especially like your stage in the relationship matters too. Because like we weren't like officially going out or anything. We were just dating and like throwing around the scenarios. Like if we dated like immediately or something, I don't know if I would change that much about my life that soon. Maybe as time went on, if it lasted like longer, then like I would definitely consider it more. You know what I mean?
But it's like if you met me and I was doing it and you didn't have a problem with it and we fell in love, like why in the fuck do I have to change now? If I'm not ready to change
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like being forced, I think eventually, there could be some resentment or just going back to it or sneaking to do it, right? So,
Or like
I don't
if
know.
someone's like religious and you're not, it's like, oh, well, my cats want to get out. They're like, what are you doing out there? I can hear them yelling, like, open the door. But or like if someone's religious and you're not, like that's another one that could come up where it's like, oh, I believe this, I really don't. It's like, could you ever? Probably not.
right? I know. Yeah, that's a
probably
hard
not.
one. That's a hard one.
That one feels more like a super compromise. Like I would just be pretending for you. So like, do you really want that?
Yeah.
It's like-
Yeah, because those are like, I think with the religion, it's more like that's your core. That's like,
Yeah,
your being, right? That's your
that's like your whole
existence. So,
worldview.
yeah. So it's like to compromise that with, whew, I don't even know. I mean, people do it, but yeah,
Yeah, I
that's a
mean,
deep one. I'm, yeah, I don't agree with this. Even if it's like, okay, you're an alcoholic and, this intervention, or babe, you just need to stop drinking so much because you make really poor decisions when you drink. But it's like, I don't know, if you met that person that way, I feel like people have to come draw their own conclusions when it's time, when they feel like it's time for themselves to change. So,
I mean, interventions don't force someone to stop. It's just like, hey, we would all very much like it if you did. We all would very much think it'd be better for you if you did.
yeah. And then it's like, yeah, you can go out and get in that car and they'll drive you to a freaking rehab. So
Man. Some people need it. Some people need
all
it.
right.
Interventions. It's like, hey,
I
can do a
guess
few
you're
more,
right.
and I gotta go.
I have one more actually.
Okay.
So this
I gotta
last
let
one,
my
I think
cats out.
we kind of touched on this, but it's don't replace I with we. So remember that you are still an individual, no matter how long you and your partner have been together. If you're invited somewhere, like just you, don't assume that your partner is invited too. You are both your own people and have your own interests and likes. Try to keep your identity separate from each other, even though you'll feel like you share a brain sometimes.
I mean, yeah, sometimes depends. Depends on the people, I guess. I typically agree, but like some people are just like that. I think like it reminded me of the scenario of like if among like guy friends where it's like, oh, we invite you, don't bring your girlfriend, you know, like but we didn't explicitly. If it's like, hey, we're doing a guys thing. Hey guys, I brought Susie. Like what?
But how difficult do you think it is to keep your identity separate from your partners?
Uh, it depends on the partner because I've had partners who like actively try to like like combine identities into like we's where it's like,
Hmm.
oh Moses, where you going? I'll come with you. It's like, oh no, I'm just going by myself. It's like what? Like oh, like I can't come. It's like I really want to go on my own. Some people want to come. Some people like they're cool. Like yeah, you do your thing, I do my thing. So I've
Right.
experienced all of it. If I can say which one I like the most, I definitely like being able to just go by myself and do things sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just want to go on a walk by myself, just enjoy the solitude.
Yeah.
Sometimes it
Yeah.
does have to be like a couple's activity. Like, I'll come with you. I like walks. Like, yeah, but this is like a Moses solitude walk.
Hmm.
Like, you could you could go on your own walk sometimes. And if you want me to come, maybe I'll come. If you want me to come, sure, I'll come. But sometimes Moses needs his own Moses time to just say, yeah, here I am in the woods.
For sure. I like that. So that was actually the last question. I don't really have any thoughts on that. I agree with that. I think that it's really important to maintain your individuality, even when you're in a romantic partnership, in order to mitigate losing yourself and you know what I mean, like having to pick up the pieces once the relationship ends, or if the relationship ends, like picking up more pieces, right?
Makes
So
sense.
yeah, but
Makes sense.
all right, well,
We made it.
thanks for tuning in.